that, and that is exactly where we will begin. Because with a week, activists hope will be critical in the fight against climate change. Now, the main message that they have, and they're taking it to the streets, words and scare stories are not enough. And now it is all about civil disobedience. Protests are planned across Europe and around the world. In London, thousands joined the movement entitled Extinction Rebellion, as Heidi was saying, and blockading some of the UK capital's busiest roads and bridges. Now, their rallying cry, unless immediate action is taken, humankind itself faces extinction. And tomorrow, here in Strasbourg, 16-year-old climate activist Greta Thunberg will deliver that warning in person. Now, the Swedish teenager who's become the face of the movement will meet with the EU Parliament President Antonio Tajani and address the Environment Committee. All right, this is, really interesting, and both of you are watching this, especially the fact that people are gathering in different parts of not just Europe, but of the world. There is so much momentum behind this. Why is that the case in terms of climate change? Do you think people just care a lot more these days? I'll start with you, Heidi.
I think a lot changed last autumn when the International Panel on Climate Change published their report. And then that actually led also in my country to a situation where for the first time ever in parliamentary elections there's been a real debate about climate and environment. So I guess it's also that the young generation is telling us that we are wasting away our time if we don't act now, because it's their planet that we are destroying. So it's our generation of decision makers that really has to conduct systemic changes.
I mean, especially with you're talking about young people and Greta Thunberg, that the Swedish teenager, she has become the face of this. And do you think, though, that the timing, the fact that it's very close to European parliamentary elections, that this is a time for politicians to actually just pay lip service? There's every possibility they can take this topic, talk about it, and maybe still not do anything about it.
I think it's more because it shows that we as Europeans not only take care of our village or our city or our a region, we have a global responsibility. Climate change hardly really affects Europe itself. It's mostly the islands in the Pacific or the vast desert areas and so, which are very hard, very strongly affected.
That there's some issues that are a bit more immediate than climate change. There's some that probably would argue that.
Yeah, that is. But as I say, if we talk about climate change, it's not really the close matters. It's more far away. But it's also very important to take responsibility in the distant, yeah?
Okay. All right. Well, our team in the Cube, they've actually been talking to one of the organizers of this Extinction Rebellion. Alex Morgan is joining us now with more on that. Alex, so you got to talk to them. What did they have to say?
Well, good evening, Tessa. Making a difference or just making a lot of noise? Really, when it comes down to today's demonstrations across London, in Brussels as well, other cities, it really depends on who you ask. I want to start, if I might, with this post on Snapchat taken by a passerby. And look at this caption at the top. Don't these people have jobs? The suggestion here that the people on the march on a Monday blocking, this is Oxford Circus here in central London, don't they have jobs? Haven't they got something better to go and do? There is certainly criticism of this march. Well, when it comes to the people on the march themselves, they certainly see themselves as at a tipping point. Let me introduce Russell. He's a marine biologist. He says he was trying to make his way out of London to get to work in Bath. He couldn't, so he went along to the marches. So on that question of, is this just a load of noise? This is what Russell had to say.
To the people that say this is probably going to make a lot of noise, not going to make too much difference, I must admit, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in terms of a turnout for an environmental movement that transcends political boundaries. You've got people from all ages, all demographics here.
All ages, all demographics here, a sense of real passion. I spoke to Mike as well. He was down there with his wife, who was helping coordinate filming the videos. And for him, this was more than just making noise. For him, it cuts down to our moral duty to the next generation. This is what Mike had to say.
There's a moral point as well as personal interest. You know, we really do owe it to ourselves, to our families and to the people of this planet, as well as all the wildlife, to do something and change the way we live before it's too late.
The idea we have a moral duty, that people are feeling they need to be there, not just because they're angry, they feel morally obliged. I think certainly in the conversation we're seeing, that may be a new factor coming in. Well, let me introduce you to Kofi. He's one of the event organisers in London. I put this question to him of, surely a few days more climate protests aren't going to change things. And Kofi said to me, this was never about one big demonstration changing everything. For him, it was about mobilising global communities. This is what Kofi had to say to me from central London.
The changes are going to be brought about by masses of people organized independently through citizens' assemblies. For the first time, we have a global movement that is supporting communities of resistance to take power into their own hands.
Taking power into their own hands. Well, there was a controversial moment today, I think, especially with a demonstration that bills itself as peaceful. This was an awkward moment. Look at this. Damage to the Shell building. Metropolitan Police saying at least 3 people arrested in this incident where activists glued themselves to the building, daubed graffiti on it. So I asked Fahana. She was another one of those attending the march from Extinction Rebellion, the group organising it. I asked her response to these scenes. This is what she had to say.
I just went past the Shell building. There were 2 activists glued, very peacefully. When I went past, I understand that people are frustrated. And the reason why they're frustrated is that big oil companies like Shell knew about the climate change impacts, and they're doing all they can, including funding, even this year, huge amounts of money to delay and obscure climate action.
And that was the sense I got, Tessa, from most of the activists when I asked them about this. They said a few broken windows for a company like Shell, while it's regrettable, it's worth it to make their overall point. Just quickly saying, Shell said in a statement to me they had no comment on these allegations. Rather, they encourage people not to injure themselves or others in incidents like this. So as you can see, the people there, this is day 1. We have at least 2 more days of this latest round of what they're calling civil disobedience, and we'll have all the latest for you in the Cube.
All right, thank you for that, Alex Morgan and our team in the Cube. I mean, those are obviously voices of the people who were supporting the Extinction Rebellion, but there are people who are bothered by the fact that they are out on the streets. It disrupts their daily lives. And, there was that question posted there, don't these people have jobs? And it was the same question that we saw when we were covering the youth protest, the student protest. Don't they have to go to school? So what do you say to that? I mean, is this a right way to go about doing this?
I think it's the right way, and I believe that their idea that they would mobilize 3.5% of global population is great, because I actually believe that you don't need to have a majority in the streets to alert the politicians to take the right decisions. And I very much appreciate this idea that they don't want to blame anyone individually for driving a car or eating meat, because we need systemic changes, and that's their aim. So I think this is a great movement, and they should stay in the street and possibly not go to work and school.
Because when you say it is the right way, that is assuming that there is no other way, that there are no alternatives. But surely, I mean, is it because they've run out of ideas or run out of ways? Is it because politicians just simply don't listen? I mean, there's got to be another way.
Yeah, I think it's a sign. Of course, it's easy to say, don't they have to go to school or to work? That's what I would say in the first
So you would say that as well?
I would say as well. But on the same time, giving a second thought, I find it fascinating that we are not stuck in ideologies. We're just stuck, longing for responsibility for our future generations, because that's what we miss if we don't take care of such an important item like climate change, yeah?
Go ahead.
Well, I think we shouldn't depoliticize the aims of this movement. Of course, they want a political change, and there are opponents to this political change. And in that sense, I think Shell is very much responsible for having put this mess together. I wouldn't necessarily advise at all to go and break their windows, but I think it's necessary to also to blame those who are corporate perpetrators of climate change.
Just one to quote one of the founders of Extinction Rebellion, he said that troublemakers change the world. So do activists have to be troublemakers to have that change?
Not necessarily. I think you can be disobedient in a non-violent manner, even vis-a-vis property and buildings. I personally I prefer that.
All right.